चल हो जा शुरू।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो पतवारा हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो पतवारा हुआ रे।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
All right, we cut across to breaking news coming in. Arundhati Roy to be prosecuted under anti-terror law. This is the latest we are just learning. LG has sanctioned Arundhati Roy prosecution under UAPA. We'll also take you through the details as Delhi LG V Saxena has sanctioned the prosecution of Arundhati Roy, former professor of international law in Central University of Kashmir, Dr. Sheikh Showkat Hussain, under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. The FIR that was registered on a complaint that was made by Sushil Pandit. And now, in the very latest, Delhi LG has sanctioned the prosecution of Arundhati Roy. Roy and Hussain, who had allegedly made provocative speeches at a conference that was organized under the banner of Azadi-the Only Way in 2010. And now Arundhati Roy will be prosecuted under UAPA. Senior Executive Editor Abhishek Kapoor with us on the phone line with further details of the prosecution sanction. Over to you, Abhishek.
Okay, so this is a big one, Suesha, because the event itself, though took place in 2010 in the month of November, but what is important is that the process is picking up pace, and at this event, which took place in New Delhi, Arundhati Roy, along with Sayyid Ali Shah Jilani, SAR Jilani, who was anchor of the conference, and Dr. Sheikh Showkat Hussain, and Maoist sympathizer Varawar Rao, they all had made speeches suggesting that Kashmir actually was never part of India. The event had taken place at the LTG Auditorium, Copernicus Marg in New Delhi. And Roy, along with Sayyid Ali Shah Jilani, who was a separatist leader of Kashmir Hurriyat Conference, and others, they had sought to create a narrative that there should be plebiscite, and they had openly batted for Azadi of Kashmir or separation of Kashmir from India, suggesting that Kashmir is not part of India. Now, while there is already a criminal proceeding going on and a relevant sanction from the authorities under sections 153 and 153B of the IPC, as also the relevant sections of the CRPC or 196 section of the CRPC, this is now an additional sanction provided by which Arundhati Roy would now be prosecuted under India's anti-terror law. And that's a huge one, because now she is to be treated as she is to be, tried under the anti-terror law, which means the government believes that talking about Kashmir secession amounts to terror, even talking about it amounts to terror and the terror activity, and hence Arundhati Roy and Dr. Showkat Hussain should be, Sheikh Showkat Hussain should be tried under India's anti-terror law. The complaint actually was made by Kashmiri rights activist Sushil Pandit, and now Delhi's Lieutenant Governor V Saxena giving this prosecution sanction means that all these people who were professing openly that Kashmir is not part of India essentially come, or those speeches or sentiments come under India's anti-terror law.
All right, Abhishek, many thanks for getting us those details. Of course, we wait and watch what happens next. But several reactions, I'm sure, will follow once this news also spreads more. Abhishek, I believe we are trying to get more voices. I request you to stay on with us because, there is a whole lobby that backs Arundhati Roy, and they would obviously make a hue and cry of the fact that she is to be tried under UAPA. Really, to get a forward view from you, Abhishek, to what you expect will happen next
Well, so obviously the new prosecution means that the investigation that's already going on, Suesha, now gets additional sections of the UAPA, and the charge sheets are going to reflect that, and the punishments change accordingly. Remember, the laws like UAPA and the PMLA have very strict conditions for bail, and so while Arundhati Roy in this case seems to be out on bail, in the UAPA case, with those sections of UAPA, Section 18, etc. added, as can be seen from the sanction, I think Section 13 of the UAPA Act, the sanction has come in. I think this would not be, after this, it would not be easy for Arundhati Roy to be easily coming out of this by way of a bail. And so essentially it adds to the stringency. And also, more importantly, Suesha, this is about government sending across a message that not today, not tomorrow, not in the past as well, you are going to talk about secession of Kashmir in any manner. So I think it's a strong messaging that's taking place. And while there was already a case going on, addition of an anti-terror law faction to the case and specifically sanctioning prosecution against the likes of Arundhati Roy, who has been part of an echo chamber and ecosystem which sort of what Arnab Goswami really called the Tukre gang. I think this is a message to the Tukre gang in Kashmir, outside Kashmir, in Delhi, outside Delhi, in Latins, Delhi and outside.
Oh yes, absolutely. And Abhishek,
and Sushil Pandit is patched with us on the phone. In fact, it was his complaint based on which this sanction for prosecution of Arundhati Roy has happened. Sushil Pandit, if you are listening to me, this is your complaint. That's what we are given to understand. What does this mean? That Arundhati Roy is going to be tried under India's anti-terror law?
Come about 14 years too late. My complaint happened a decade and a half ago. I gave the evidence. I went to the court when police was reluctant to even register my FIR, turn my complaint into an FIR. I had to move the court and submit the evidence to the court when police was dragging its feet even in the court. And at the instructions of the magistrate at Patiala House, that police was forced to register my complaint. And lo and behold, investigation didn't happen. And I had to again move the court to transfer this case to crime branch because police at Tilak Marg was too busy looking after VIPs and handling trade fairs and making bandobast for 26th January. So 14 years too late, I have run around police personnel investigating and framing the charge sheet. I have spent my money, my time, my effort, and Gilani, who is a co-accused, died comfortably in his bed without even anybody as much as calling and asking him if these charges are right. It is frustrating that our criminal justice system wakes up so late and does nothing about it. But now that it has decided to, I'm happy.
Sushil, but what would you expect from here on? Now that this has happened, you expect a quicker prosecution and that Arundhati Roy is brought to justice for professing Kashmir's separation from India?
Absolutely. She is on record. I have submitted the tapes to the police and to the court in her own voice, in flesh and blood, at Little Theatre Group, Mandi House. She called for armed resistance, violent resistance to break India, which she called was a colonial state, a successor colonial state to British colonials, occupying as many as 17 nations, subjugating Khalistan, subjugating Tamils, subjugating Northeast. She called for dismemberment and dismantling of Indian state. And she justified violence.
Sushil Pandit, you know, you were mentioning about your frustrations, but the fact of the matter is that finally things seem to be moving. But please tell us, was this event out of public eye? Because remember, This happened in 2010. There was a government in power at the center, and obviously things must have moved in a manner and were made to move in a manner by the government of that day that nothing happens to Arundhati Roy for professing Kashmir separation.
Absolutely. Little Theatre Group was barely 1 mile away, less than a kilometer away, as the crow flies, from India's parliament. The then Home Minister, when he was pestered by the journalists every day as to what he was going to do about it, had infamously said, taking no action is also an action, after a week of pestering him. That is when I was moved enough to file a private citizen's complaint against this carnage, this travesty, this crime. And then I just mentioned what happened. They won't even register my complaint. Government of the day was playing footsie, was playing hide and seek, was wink, wink, nudge, nudge in cahoots with these elements. And that's why they had the courage to do so in the heart of our city, the capital, and call for an armed resistance and dismemberment of India. The likes of Varavara Rao, the likes of Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani, the likes of Arundhati Roy, name it. The entire rogues gallery was present at that time. And none was even as much as summoned to explain their conduct. None had a policeman visiting them to ask as to why did they commit this crime and if they indeed commit this crime. I was running around police stations and I thought perhaps that government was not interested, so let me wait for a new government to come. In 2014, the government changed, but nothing changed. For the last 10 years, it remained where it was. So I'm happy. In fact, I am pleasantly surprised that somebody somewhere in the system has suddenly woken up to do something about it. Otherwise, I had given up hope.
I know, Sushil, this is an emotional moment for you, but you see, this is addition of additional prosecution sanction under the UAPA, but already there was a case under IPC and CRPC, etc. So what has happened in that case so far?
Nothing. The charge sheet was ready. When I was told, I was shown the charge sheet. It was waiting green signal from the top, whatever that means, to be filed, and it never saw the light of day. The charge sheet was never filed, so the prosecution didn't even begin, which is how the case has been with all the murderers and those who committed our genocide in Kashmir. None has been prosecuted. None has been found guilty. None has been punished. So I thought it was the policy of the state not to prosecute any of these offenders. For years, governments came and went, prime ministers came and went, home ministers changed. Nothing happened. It seemed as if there was a consensus in the state on this policy that enemies of the state will have to be protected, nourished, and encouraged. Perhaps that was the standard of our democracy and secularism to be shown to the world.